All right, we'd like to welcome defending champion Scottie Scheffler into the interview room at the 2023 Arnold Palmer Invitational presented by MasterCard. This is the second of 4 opportunities Scottie will have to defend his title in a 9-week stretch. So Scottie, you got the first one done. If we could just get an opening comment on your title defense here at the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
Yeah, I'm excited for the week. It's a golf course I've had success on in the past. I think I've spoken a little bit about liking the harder golf courses out here, and that's definitely what this place is. First impressions on the course, the fairways are a bit softer than they were last year, which I think is actually going to benefit this place because the way a lot of the dog legs sit, when the fairways get really firm, it's really hard to hold the fairways, and you don't always get rewarded for hitting a good tee shot. But the way they're playing right now, you're always going to get rewarded for that, which is good. And then going into the greens are already firmer than they were last year this time, and so as the greens continue to get firmer, it's going to be harder and harder to get the ball close to the hole, and it's going to be a good, challenging week, but I think a few more good shots off the tee are going to get rewarded.
All right, we'll take some questions out here. If you have a question, we'll get a microphone to you. Questions? We'll start with Jeff on the aisle in the middle.
Hey, Scottie. The whole tussle for number one between you and John and Rory up there, does it motivate you?
I mean, I don't like losing to people, and anytime we don't win an event, you're always motivated. And so pretty much most golfers, I think, spend their whole careers pretty motivated to be good. I would say so. I think anytime you get some really good competition is very motivating. It's like, you know, I got the win in Phoenix, and then John went out the next week and beat me by a bunch of shots. And so it's fun to have guys playing at the top of their games, and yeah.
And as you look at those two individuals and their games, what parts or pieces of those games do you admire?
I think both guys have the ability to hit a lot of shots. I mean, you obviously have Rory with his length, and then but they both have the ability to hit the ball extremely high and get to a lot of pins that most players out here can't get to. And then I think mostly I admire a lot of their competitiveness. I think that's what you see from the guys that are able to make it to the top numerous times, whether it be number one in the world or win many times out here. I think you know, John may have 8 wins, and Rory's. How many does John have? Do you know?
How many PGA Tour wins?
Yeah.
10.
So he's double-digit wins. Rory's got 20-something. I mean, anytime you see a guy with that many wins out here, they got an extremely competitive side to them, and yeah, it serves them well.
We'll go to Gary on the left.
Hey, thanks. Rory was just in. We asked him about the new proposed, it's already been approved, the schedule for 24, reducing the fields on the elevated event, no cuts. What's your feeling on the feedback from the rank and file of guys on tour? Obviously, it's going to be more of a closed shop, and there's going to be, you know, if you knock out 50 spots out of 10 events, that's 500 fewer playing opportunities.
Well,
how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I would say it's not necessarily that, you know, that simple of an equation, just because you're running the entire business. And so if you imagine you have 120 guys in the fields this year, those 50 additional guys that are not going to be in the fields next year are all playing the events this year, and you're seeing a lot of other tournaments on our schedule suffer because of that. Because let's say if you're the 100th guy in the world or whatever, you're going to be trying to play in those $20 million purses, and if you're in the event, how can you skip it? It's double the money and all that stuff. But now all of a sudden you have those 50 guys that aren't going to be playing in the next event, and that event's going to suffer, and there's a chance we lose events because of that, because guys aren't playing. And so the math isn't necessarily that simple. And I think it's exciting because you're going to have the top guys in the world playing against each other more often. You're going to be able to guarantee to sponsors that those guys are going to be there 4 days. And if you're coming out to an event to watch on Saturday and Sunday, and you know, if I'm imagining myself as a kid, I'd want to get out there early. And let's say I'm having a bad week, some kid can come out and watch me play early in the day, and you can guarantee that, you know, Rory McIlroy is going to be there on Sunday, John Rahm's going to be there on Sunday. And I think that's a lot of value added to TV and for sponsors. And so purses aren't going down out here. The guys that you know, may not be able to get into those 70-man fields are going to be playing a lot of other events where the purses aren't going down. And so I think it's going to benefit the membership as a whole, and you know, I'm excited and hopefully going to finish in the top 50 in the FedEx Cup, because I want to be in those events next year. And if I don't, I'm not getting put in them. You know, you got to earn your way still out here on tour, and there's plenty of avenues for guys to earn their way into those tournaments, whether it's this year or next year, with the eligibility for tournaments being, you know, top 10 from current FedEx Cup, and there's other, you know, ways to get in the events, and we're still going to reward good golf, but yeah.
All right, we got a couple questions over here. We'll start one in the back right.
Hi, Scottie. As you approach the title defense, of the Masters. What do you look for these weeks leading up to it? What particular part of your game is maybe the best indicator in terms of confidence as you head into Augusta?
Yeah, I would say when I'm preparing for tournaments, I'm always preparing and thinking about, the situations on Saturdays and Sundays and how you actually feel in the moment. And so anytime you're able to be in that moment and succeed like I was last year, it definitely gives you a bit of confidence moving forward. And as I prepare for those events, I know exactly what it feels like when you're standing there on 15T on Saturday, when you have a lead or close to the lead. And I know how I'm feeling on those shots, and having the ability to prepare, knowing exactly how you feel is very important. And as I'm doing my practice, Augusta is always kind of in the back of your head as you're at home working on shots and stuff like that. And so it's in the back of your head, but at the same time, I'm very focused on this week and hoping to play well here.
Are you at the same stage this year as you were about a year ago?
Same stage?
As far as your parts of your game, what you're really honing in on as you head to Augusta National?
Yeah, I feel like I'm playing solid golf right now. I've hit I had some success in Phoenix, and I feel like I've played some really solid golf this year, so I'm definitely excited kind of heading into that week.
Bob, on the right.
Have you been back to Augusta National since you won?
No, I've actually never done that. I've never gone to Augusta before the tournament. I've always just been there tournament week. This year, this is going to be a bit different, but we'll see.
So maybe you're thinking of going in advance. Would you be able to enjoy the experience of maybe staying on site and not being in prep mode, or
yeah,
is that not how?
Yeah, I think that's something I'm definitely looking forward to. Try and get kind of reliving the memories out of the way before I show up there, because when you show up for tournament week, you don't want to be thinking too much about last year. You don't want to be getting ready for this year, and everybody starts it even. If you're the defending champ, you got the target on your back. It's arguably harder to play well, and so I'll get kind of a little bit of the memories and stuff like that out of the way, and that way when I show up on Sunday, I'm ready for the week.
A question from Kathy on the left.
Speaking of having a target on your back, last year after you won 4 events, was it exhausting every time you went to a new place, feeling like people were coming after you, they were gunning for you? By the end of the season, were you tired?
By the end of the season, I was definitely tired. I don't think exhausting is the right word. I would say things were just a bit different for me. I became pretty used to my first few years on tour, being able to spend a ton of time at the golf course Monday through Wednesday. And, I'd spend a lot of time practicing after the round. And as I continued on with my career, I realized that a lot of the work that's done at tournaments can be somewhat of a waste of time. And I say that not as preparation is no good, but the value of rest, I started to learn that a lot more as my career went on, and especially as there's more stuff going on, whether it be media, fans, volunteers, whatever it is, all good problems to have. I have to do a really good job of conserving my energy to where I'm ready to go and have a lot of energy on Saturdays and Sundays, whereas early in my career, I don't think I really realized that.
Michael on the right.
Thank you. Scottie, do you keep your Arnold sweater and your club coat from Augusta in the same closet?
I do. Yeah.
Do they have a butt?
Do they ever touch?
Yes.
And maybe if there's ghosts in there, they're a few inches apart.
Along those same lines, for like the ordinary fan, there's a lot of charming things in golf. Like you get the green coat, the interplay between the caddy and the player, all these different things. But now there's been so much focus on money, money, money. Do you? I know you're a young guy on tour, but do you feel like golf is changing, or do you think the two things can coexist, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they've coexisted for a number of years out here. I think it just depends on what you're focusing on. I'm very grateful to be playing out here on the PGA Tour, and we get paid a ridiculous amount of money to do what we do out here, but I don't think money is a motivating factor for too many guys. You can't really base life decisions when it comes to money, and when you're out here playing golf tournaments, you're never thinking about the money. You just want to win the tournament. And so as being kind of a golf purist, that's the motivation. I want to be able to play well and win tournaments and get the most out of my game. Money is definitely not a motivating factor for guys out here. And I believe that they can coexist. I know there's a lot of talk with LIV and money and guaranteed money and all this different kinds of stuff. But the guys out here on our tour, I'm excited about the direction and where we're going. And we're so blessed to be able to play a sport for a living. And so it's definitely not a motivating factor.
All right, we got one in the back right, and then we'll come up here to Doug.
Hey, Scottie, can you share a little bit more about what you learned regarding Saturday and Sunday play, given how difficult it is to get in position on Sunday to win, given the depth of talent out here?
Are you talking this week specifically, or?
In general, as you went through the season last year.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because I think a lot of people see more of the golf on Saturday and Sunday, and those shots you'd imagine have more importance, but they really don't. I mean, it's a cumulative score over 4 days, and so something as a player I learned being out here on tour was I needed to bring the same intensity to Thursday and Friday as I did to Saturday and Sunday, because I spent a lot of my early years in my career kind of on the outside looking in on Sundays. I didn't win. I think the reason I didn't win was I didn't give myself enough opportunities to have a lead. I didn't have many 54-hole leads, co-leads, and the more you put yourself in those positions, the more you learn how to prepare for them. And I think one of the mistakes I made early in my career was not bringing the intensity early in the week, and I think that's something you see with guys like Tiger. I mean, every shot Tiger hits is the most important shot he's hit in his entire life, and being able to bring as much energy as I can to every shot in the tournament is really valuable.
And what do you think about the miking up of players during Saturday's rounds?
It's definitely interesting. It's something I'd have to think about, but it's definitely interesting for fans. I've seen a little bit of bits and pieces. I saw a little bit of Colin being mic'd up at Rev, and then I saw some of Max being mic'd up at Torrey, and it's interesting for sure.
All right, we'll go to Doug and then Mark behind him.
Scottie, if someone were to, if a friend or whatever were to ask you why this is a good decision or a good direction that the tour is going, why is there a need for this kind of change, what would you tell them?
A friend or you?
Can it be both? just a casual guy.
Yeah, no, I would tell them. I think the PGA Tour is doing a good job of creating an aspirational set of events. I think it's something that players will really strive for out here on tour, and so being able to get into that top 50 for next year is going to be huge for guys. You're going to be able to play in those events, and I mean, it's no secret out here that events with less guys are probably a little bit easier on you, whether it be playing a practice round or getting guys around for 4 days. It doesn't have the same wear and tear as a 156-man major field does, and I think it's going to be benefit for players all across the board. I mean, purse sizes for the other events are not going down. The field sizes are staying the same for those. And I think it's a better model overall for the tour to have a set of events that are aspirational and that give guys access to those events. I mean, if you earn your way in to those events, the top 50 in the FedEx Cup this year gets into all of them. And then let's say you have a poor year this year, you get injured, something happens. Next year, if you perform well, either in the fall or early in the year and you're top 10 in the FedEx Cup, and then there's top 10 current, like not otherwise exempt. I mean, it's a good way for guys to get access to those events, and I think it's more of a reward for the guys that are playing the best on the tour.
And how do you think, you'd have to turn the clock back a little bit, but what do you think your opinion would be on this if you were on the Korn Ferry this year?
I would be pretty excited because, like, when I came out here on tour, I did Q School in fall of 2018. I played Korn Ferry Tour in 2019. And I remember when I started the year after finishing the Korn Ferry Tour, I was Korn Ferry Tour Player of the Year, and I had to see guys that, I had competed and played better against arguably that year, get the sponsors invites into those two events in, I think it was Korea and Japan. And so I didn't have a chance to get access to those events because the fields were already set based on last year's FedEx Cup. But if I show up and I play good at the beginning of the year, whether it was the Fortinet Championship or I can't remember exactly the schedule cadence, but
Sanderson Farms.
Yeah, Sanderson Farms. If I showed up and played well, I could gain access to those events, whereas before I didn't. And so now with the new schedule and the new ways or the new avenues for guys to get into those events, I think it rewards more good golf. Which is exciting because when I first got out here on tour, you didn't have the opportunity to go straight to the PGA Tour. I had to do a year on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then when I got out here, I still didn't have access to some of those certain events.
Mark, got time for a couple more.
Hey, Scottie. When you look back at when you did break through and start winning last year, here being one of them, we're only a year removed from that. I'm just kind of curious, how would you describe this run? Obviously, you in a very short period of time, you won your first event and became a major championship winner, and here you are
Yeah.
battling for #1 in the world. How do you put that into words, what this is like, and how quickly has it happened in your
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty difficult to kind of put in perspective. Doug was just asking about how I felt on the Korn Ferry Tour, and I don't feel that much different of a person as I did back then. I think wherever you are, you're trying to get the best out of yourself and do the best you can, and that's still what I'm doing out here on tour. I still prepare the same way I did back then, albeit now I'd say I'm a little bit more focused as I've learned to be over the course of my career. But, it's kind of hard to describe the run, but it's definitely been a lot of fun, and I'm hoping to keep improving and, keep playing good golf.
All right, we got time for one more question. We'll go to Jeff on the aisle.
Scottie, as we go down this path for the new schedule, and maybe we go to the limited fields and everybody else goes to the other events and the purses aren't going down, at some point on this path, do we create in essence, a PGA Tour Premier League and a PGA Tour regular league?
Yeah, gosh, that's a good question. I think what's important about our tour is the meritocracy, and if you play good golf, you're going to get rewarded for it. And I think we're moving more in a direction where that's the case. I mean, we're creating more avenues for guys to get out here with PGA Tour University. That's something that wasn't around 3 or 4 years ago, and that's something for me coming out of college that would have been incredible. It's difficult because you have a certain number of guys that finish college and they turn pro, and then they try and get spots, whether it be sponsoring exemptions. And now there'd actually be an avenue where I would have gotten maybe into some Korn Ferry Tour events or some PGA Tour Canada events. I remember I couldn't even get into a qualifier for PGA Tour Canada because of the way the sign-up worked. There was only certain events that fit in my college schedule, and I couldn't get into the right one. And so then I go from maybe having a spot in Memphis, I think I had a spot at Barracuda, and then I think I qualified for the U.S. Open. And, it was difficult. There wasn't really an avenue. I was playing Korn Ferry Tour Monday qualifiers and playing mini tour events, whereas now, maybe I would have been on the PGA Tour Canada or Korn Ferry Tour or whatever it is. And so I think that's what's really special about our tour is giving people avenues to make it out here. And now I think we're creating more avenues where we're going to get the top tier talent coming out of college and getting out here faster so they can come out here and compete. And so I think the question about whether there's going to be a Premier League or not, there's definitely going to be an aspirational set of events with those 70 guys, but there's going to be avenues for players coming out of college, coming from the lower levels of our tour to get into those events and participate. I mean, you look at a guy like Eric Cole last week with his solo second, he probably moved up significantly in the FedEx Cup. And, if we're looking in a year's time, he's going to be a guy that is probably going to be on your radar now that may be on the bubble to be getting into some of those tournaments and have the opportunity to participate against the best players in the world.
All right, Scottie, thank you very much for your time. Best of luck this week.